Hi, this is David Bansal. I'm an author and a life coach in the art of conscious living. I've made myself available here with just one simple intention to spread the right awareness about the phenomena of life, what many people today call as manifestation. But before we begin with this video, I would like to thank you for supporting this work of mine towards Neville Goddard and his beautiful education and mystery of life that he has revealed, and which I will be sharing with the perspective of my own experience. So today in this video we are going to be moving on to a journey into deepest mechanics of reality. So if you have ever felt that manifestation is just a hit or miss game, like sometimes I do manifest certain things, small things, but when it comes to bigger ones, my deepest desire, it doesn't work. It's likely because you have seen the one piece of puzzle only. So Neville Goddard didn't just give us a trick to get what we want. He gave us a system. He often said that there is only one law. But to help us understand it, he described it through various lenses, through various methods, through various perspectives, different laws that explain how our mind interacts with the universe. So, in this video, I'm going to give you the complete list of all the laws given by Neville, which are classified into four categories just for your own understanding. And one can only categorize various laws of Neville or even start to collect the name of different laws of manifestation which was given by Neville only when the person has gone through all the material, all the work of Neville. So these four categories are the source, because we need to start from a place where it starts with the source. Second, the method of it. Third is the logic behind it. And the fourth one is the path through which you execute the law. So let's come to the source of it. And to understand it, just imagine before you can even build a house, you need to understand the ground that which you're standing on over which you will be making your home or house. So these laws explains the foundation of our existence, the source. The law which was given by Neville was the law of consciousness. And this is Neville's one and only law. And it is not Neville's one and only law. This is universe one and only law, the law of highest importance, the only law which exists. So, this is Neville's primary law. So, in his book, At Your Command, he states that your consciousness is one and only cause of your world. Nothing happens outside of it. It was given by Neville in the book At Your Command, which was published in 1939. And the law says, the law of consciousness, that your consciousness is the one and only reality. And this is the grandfather law of all his teachings. Just think about for a moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens outside of your awareness of it. The people you meet, the money in your bank account, even the weather in your world is an outpicturing of what you're conscious of being. And to understand what you're conscious of being, if I tell you, like, what is money according to you? Is it easy to earn or hard to earn? And your answer to it will tell me what you're conscious of being about money. If you say like money is the thing, only it comes hard to me actually, or it is really hard to earn, that's what you're conscious of being. And if you say money comes and buy, but it never stops, that what you're conscious of being. If you tell me like money is easy thing for me, I always get through various sources from my parents, from my business, from different things. I always found myself to be lucky in money, and that's what you're conscious of being. You aren't a victim of a world out there. You are the projector of world in here in your own mind. And when you understand this, the law of consciousness, you stop trying to change people or circumstances. You realize that the change in your screen of life, you simply have to change the film in your consciousness. And the second law in the source is the law of being, the I amness. Now, with this law, we go even deeper. And this is without a doubt most sacred and most powerful of Neville's entire philosophy. In his masterpiece, Your Faith is Your Fortune, the book, he explains that the name of God mentioned in the ancient scripture is not a man in the sky. It is your own sense of existence. And that inner voice says, I am. So before you are a man or woman, before you're rich or poor, before you are successful or failing, you simply are. And which is, you just are I amness. This unconditioned awareness is the creative power of the universe. So Neville teaches that whatever you attach to that I am becomes your reality. So, example, if you say I am, that is your awareness of being, and you say I am tired, or I am broke, I am unwanted, you are using the most powerful name in the existence, that is I am. Then you describe it, that I am broke, I am rich, I am poor. But if you can stand in silence and simply feel the power of your own being, just your awareness of being, that is your I amness, and then you realize you are the master. So the sacred principle here is I amness is the law of being, and beside it, there is no other law. So Neville wanted us to understand that I am is not just a phrase, it is the law itself. It is the beginning and the end. And once you realize that your I amness is the cause of your world, you stop looking for any other power in the universe to save you. Now, coming to the next part of it, the method, the how. We have established from the previous section that we have established the ground, the source. We know that consciousness is the cause and your I amness is the power. But now we face the practical question of it. And Neville was having gone through the same experience, he understood, telling you that your I amness and your consciousness is the power is not enough, because most of the people are already conditioned to think and categorize things. We have a logical mind. And Neville understood it. We always try to categorize things for the sake of comfortability in our mind. We saw animal, plants, bacteria, viruses on Earth, and we simply jumped onto classifying them. These are eukaryotes, these are prokaryotes, these are virus, these are bacteria. And yet we still find the things which cannot be classified, living or non-living, that are viruses. So we love to categorize things. You look into your house, you love to categorize your home into different section, into different room. This is who we are. So Neville understood this point. And to make you understand, he didn't just stop at law of consciousness or law of I amness, law of being. He created more such laws just to make you understand. And at no point these are different laws. These are the same law. There's only one law, the law of consciousness. So he created further more laws just to make you understand. But now we face the practical question. How do we actually move? How do we shift our I amness from the person who's struggling to the person who's already succeeded? So these are the practical tools, the mechanical laws that bridge the gap between your current reality and your dreams. And the very first law is the law of assumption. If Neville Goddard is known for one thing, this is it, the law of assumption. And this is the crown jewel of his 1952 book, The Power of Awareness. Many people confuse the law with wishing, hoping, and maybe trying to attract something from outside. So Neville corrects this immediately. It is not about wishing, it is about claiming. And how do you claim something? When you assume it. So the law of assumption states that you must boldly assume the feeling of wish fulfilled and right now, despite what your eye sees or what your bank account says. You're essentially telling the universe, this is who I am and this is who I claim to be. And the universe, being a mirror, has no choice but to agree. The golden principle is that an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. So the secret word here is persistence. So most people assume for maybe a few minutes and then they see no change and they give up. But the law requires you to live in that assumption until it becomes your natural home state. So what actually happens through the law of assumption? You are changing your own consciousness. if you're currently conscious or maybe facing troubles in money. So your mind is automatically just living a life conscious of being poor. So when you persist with an assumption that you have money, what you are doing, you're changing your consciousness into believing that you have it. And as the law of consciousness says, what is within is without. What is within you, you will see in the outer world. So you'll start to see the abundance. But you must persist. So the next law into this, the method, is the law of thought. Thinking from versus thinking of. So this is where most people fail. So in his book, Prayer, the Art of Believing, Neville makes a sharp surgical distinction that determines whether you are manifesting or your manifestation will live or die. It is the difference between thinking of and thinking from. When you're thinking of your desire, you're looking at it like a window shopper. Maybe one day I will become this or that. One day I'll become a doctor. So you're thinking of your desire that one day I will become this or one day I will have that. Just like a window shopping. You don't look at the dream, you look from the dream. You don't think of a new house, you think from the living room of that house. You feel the texture of the wall in your all in your imagination. You hear the sound of the keys opening of the door. You occupy the state as your present reality. So the technique is this: you must mentally inhabit the end result until it feels more real than the room you are sitting in right now. And the next law in this, the method, is the law of sacrifice. This law is perhaps the most misunderstood in all of Neville's work. So when people hear the word sacrifice, they think of something giving up, like maybe money, maybe food, maybe all the physical pleasure they have to give. But Neville's law of sacrifice is much more profound, and yet it is much more difficult too. It is about giving up or sacrifice the old version of yourself. You cannot stay as the person who is broke and simultaneously become the person who's wealthy. You cannot stay as a person who's lonely and become the person who's deeply loved. To possess the new state, you must completely let go of you, the old state. You must stop identifying with your past limitation. But somehow man is not trained enough to do it. But how do you do it? By not giving the power of attention. So if you have a thought is just like a tree. And your attention to thought is a water. So if you are thinking about your past, that is the tree. But if you keep on giving your attention, which is water, the tree will grow. And it will bloom into your entire life and it will present into your reality. So Neville never told you to cut off the tree. He told you to simply give off, maybe stop giving your power to it. Stop giving attention to it. And this is the law of sacrifice. So you must completely let go of your oldest version of self. In simple terms, to move into your new life, you must be willing to let go the old version of you. People are not willing to let go. They still somehow entertain and play, somehow love the negative about things about themselves only. They continuously repeat in their own mind their old past mistake and they dwell there. You are trading a lesser version of yourself for a greater one. This is the only sacrifice this law requires. Now comes to the next part of it, the logic, the proof of it. Now Neville understood it. Some people are spiritual in attempt. If they are spiritual by now, they must have understood how to apply the law of manifestation. They can consider their self, their I amness as a god, and they completely give up their self in that faith. Because spirituality, some people are attracted to spirituality and they will give their self, their faith in a concept. So Neville told them that your I amness is the God. So for the spiritual people, by now they have understood it. But there are people who are thinkers, who are skeptics, and those who need logical bridge to access over into faith. The scientifically minded people. The rational people who so call themselves rational, that they need to see the proof, concrete of it, at least make me understand through various laws of physics, chemistry, biology, or something solid which I have learned in my life. For those people, Neville gave furthermore new laws under the logic, the proof. He provided laws that mirror the fundamental of physics. Laws that prove manifestation isn't a miracle, it is mechanical certainty. So, the very first law was the law of reversibility, the law of inverse transformation. And this is perhaps Neville's most brilliant logical argument. For those people who tend to think themselves as a logical person. So, Neville says in the world of physical science, there is a rule, which I also believe that you will believe it, that all transformations of force are reversible. That all transformation of force are reversible. For example, if heat can produce mechanical motion, then mechanical motion can produce heat. If electricity can produce magnetism in the fan, then the magnetism can produce the electricity, the generators. So Neville took this universal law and applied it to your own psychology. We all know that physical fact, like winning a prize, creates a psychological state of joy. You feel happy about it. The law of reversibility states that inverse must also be true. If the fact can create the feeling, an incident can create the feeling, then feeling must be able to create the fact. And that's the law of inverse transformation. So, if a physical fact can produce a psychological state can produce a physical fact. And it was mentioned in the book Prayer, The Art of Believing in 1945. So, this means you don't have to wait for event to happen to feel the joy. You create the joy first, and by this immutable law of universe, the event must move toward you to match that feeling. And that is mathematical necessity. And another law in this, the logic, the proof is the law of identical harvest. So, this is the spiritual and psychological version of the ancient truth, that you reap what you sow. But Neville takes it deeper than just being a good person. He explains that universe is consistent and non-judgmental garden. So if you plant an apple seed, you get an apple seed. You will never, in the history of the world, plant an apple seed and get a thorn bush. The law of identical harvest states that your thoughts and feelings are the seed, and your life experiences are the harvest. This cannot wake up every morning. You cannot actually wake up every morning planting seeds of I am struggling, I am broke, life is hard, and then expect harvest of life to be abundance and ease. The harvest must be identical to the seed. So the eternal principle here involved is whatever a man sows, that also he will reap. And it was mentioned in the book of 1969. Sorry, it was a lecture of 1969, which was delivered by Neville. And the name of lecture was The Law of Identical Harvest. So if you don't like the fruit you are picking in your life right now, your relationships, your health, your finances, you don't get angry at the fruit. You go back to the soil of your mind and change the seed. The law is perfect. It never makes a mistake. And the last part is the path, the optimization. So we have the ground, we have the tools, and now we have the logic till now, what we have discussed. But many people still find themselves exhausted. So for them, Neville further gave out further few more laws to make them understand. There are all kind of people in this world, and they need to satisfy their rational mind to believe in a concept. There are still people in this world who believe in a fact which goes against the very nature of laws. People still believe. So for those, Neville rolled out basically a new concept or maybe few more laws. They feel like they're fighting to manifest. They're trying to manifest so hard. They are pushing and pushing and pulling and straining their minds. So Neville realized that. The human ego loves to struggle. So he gave us these final laws to refine our practice. These are the laws of optimization. The law that makes the journey smooth, fast, and effortless. So, the very first law in this is the law of least effort. So, in the physical world, nature always takes the path of least resistance. A river doesn't struggle to flow to the ocean, it simply follows the gravity of its own nature. So, in the chapter 14 of The Power of Your Own Awareness, Neville introduces this law of least effort. He teaches us that manifestation is not a conquest. It is a surrender, complete and blissful surrender. You do not try to manifest any more than a seed tries to grow itself into a flower. No. The moment you use your willpower, the moment you use mental force, you're actually signaling to the universe that you don't have what you want. The force creates resistance. The shortest path to your goal is the psychological equivalent of least action. It is the simple, quiet assumption that it is already done. You don't work off it, you rest in it. And the principle is very simple. The shortest path to your goal is the psychological equivalent of least action. And that is just mere an assumption. So stop trying to make it happen right now. Instead, start letting it to be true about yourself. Like I'm surrendering that I'm this person and let it be. I'm not going to lift a single finger. And that's the path of least resistance. So when you move with the law of least effort, the world moves with you, not against you. And the very last law that Neville gave us, just to understand this, is the perfect law of liberty. Finally, we reach the law of absolute freedom. Neville based this on the book of James in the Bible, and it is perhaps the most liberating teaching he ever gave. He called it the law of perfect liberty. This law states that you are never ever a prisoner of your past. It does not matter what mistakes you have made, what debts you have, or how many times you have failed. The law of liberty says that you can look into the mirror of your own mind and completely see a reality where you are free, where you are loved and successful. And if you persevere in that vision, the past literally dissolves. So it is a law of mental forgiveness. If it allows you to rewrite your history and walk into the future that is completely unburdened by who you were yesterday. So the core thing is from the book which Neville mentions is that, but he who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, he will be blessed in his doing. And it was in the lecture of 1971, the perfect law of liberty. And this is the law that sets you free from the sins of your past thoughts. It reminds you that every single moment is a fresh start. You're not bound by the karma or maybe fate. You're only bounded by the concept you choose to hold in your mind right now. So these were the laws which were given by Neville. So we have traveled through entire architecture of Neville Goddard's teaching, all the laws that he have given. We have explored the source, mastered the method, and understood the logic, and found the path of least effort and resistance. But as we go towards the end of this video, I want to leave you with one thing that ties every single of these laws together: the driving force. Neville's most famous book, titled summarizes the engine, the electricity, the heartbeat that drives all these law. And that book was Feeling is the Secret. Whether you call it law of assumption, law of reversibility, law of consciousness, these are just labels. Fuel is always the feeling. You see, universe doesn't respond to word. You say like any words. It does not even respond to the picture you visualize if they are just cold and empty. The universe responds to the vibration of your conviction, that is your feeling. You must feel the reality of the state, the relief. I'm not telling you to become mad over it. Just relief, maybe a gratitude, unnatural feeling of it, until that inner feeling becomes more real to you than the walls of the room you're sitting in. So the ultimate truth that is you don't get what you want. You get what you feel you are. And always remember, there's only one law of consciousness. And just to make it understand the law of consciousness to every human being, whether it's a spiritual person, whether it's a scientifically minded person, whether it's some other person, Neville rolled out different version of this law. It does not mean that if I fail in law of consciousness, I should operate the law of assumption. There is only one law. But just to make it understand to every human being born on earth, Neville rolled out different laws just to make them understand. These are not different law, but just to make them understand. So there is only one law of consciousness. So you are the operant power. This is what Neville said. Now I want you to go back through this list in your mind, whatever we have covered today. Which of these laws resonates with you most today? Is it the scientific, undeniable logic of reversibility, the law of inverse transformation? Or is it the radical, soul steering freedom of law of liberty? Or is it the quite powerful law of least effort? Whichever one clicks for you, you use it. But just don't watch this video and move on to the next one. Put it to the test. Because the most important thing Neville ever said was, you are the operant power. The law doesn't work by itself, it works because you operate it. You are the dreamer, the director, the actor in your own life's play. The script is in your hand, and the power to change is in your heart, in your feeling.